So this next segment is the Data Jobs Report. As you know, Dustin co-hosts the Data Career Summit with me, but he's actually been putting together his Data Jobs Report for over 4 years, and it's one of the major catalysts behind why we decided to create this Data Career Summit. So I'm really excited for him to share the latest results. Take it away.
Perfect. Thank you, Brandy. Can you hear? You can still hear me okay, right? Perfect. Okay, awesome. So as Brandy mentioned, I've been working on this Data Jobs Report for about 4.5 years. So I actually started this in 2019, and I started it because I was a manager of analytics at the time, and the field was starting to kind of grow and hit this inflection point. And a lot of folks were asking me, hey, how can I get into the field? Like, what do I need to learn to get into the field? Like, how should my son or daughter get the skills that they need to get into the field? Folks were starting to ask me, how do I put position descriptions together for analyst positions? And so I thought, being a data person, logically, I want to start taking a look at what the data says about it. So I started twice per year grabbing 100 job position posting, and these are data analytics job postings from kind of major corporate sites, things Fortune 500 companies, job sites, major career sites, scraping the data and putting into a database, key attributes from those postings. Think of hard skills, the education requirements, the experience requirements, things like that, so that I could see over time, I could have a pulse point over time of what the market was looking for all of these things in the positions that were being posted. And over time, I started to realize, this would be, I think, valuable to others. And I'm just going to start making this available publicly. And that was actually one of the first things that got Brandy and I talking about the Career Summit and how we could take this kind of stuff a step further and bring in other experts to provide their guidance on how you can action some insights like this and actually get positions in the field. So that was kind of the background. I'm going to go really quickly, just since we're a couple minutes behind schedule here. I want to make sure I get us back on track. I do have a comprehensive report that's going to go out to all of the paid participants for today. We'll send that out right after the summit. That's in like a document format, but I have just kind of some slides in here to give a preview of some of the key insights from it. And what I'll do is, because I'm going to shorten this presentation, I'm actually going to share, my commitment here is to share out a snapshot of each of these slides. That's a preview of the key findings from that report out on social media over the next few days. I'm going to go really quick through them, but know that I'll also share a snapshot of them out on my LinkedIn in the next few days. So 5 overall trends I want to touch on. The first is SQL and data visualization were the top 2 skills mentioned in job postings, data and analytics job postings by a significant margin. And I'll show you exactly what that looks like in just a second, numbers wise. Across the positions, so I surveyed 100 positions, 145 unique skills were mentioned across those 100 positions, but the 80-20 rule very much applied. And you're going to see, you actually might have seen, I posted a word cloud out yesterday of all of the skills that were mentioned in these position postings. But guess what? There were some big words that popped in that word cloud if you saw it. So there was definitely several skills that were mentioned over and over again, and probably are going to be some of the skills, especially if you're just getting started, that you want to focus on learning initially. Having experience in a certain industry, be it healthcare, or manufacturing or whatever, it definitely is helpful. I do see industry related experience listed in analyst positions. It's, sometimes required, but definitely is listed as preferred fairly often. It's actually as a required skill. You'll see in one of the next slides, it's the number 7 skill that's required, but it's the number 1 skill that's listed in the preferred or nice to have section. And then Python experience. This one kind of actually bounces around in the report a little bit, or at least has over the last few reports that I've published. But it's definitely a nice to have. I see it mentioned in a lot of position postings. It's the number 4 most mentioned in terms of required, but it's the number 2 in terms of preferred. So I kind of read this Python as it's a nice to have, and I'll give a little bit more of a take on that in a second too. One takeaway as well, just salary wise, one nice thing is that companies are starting to put more and more kind of the salary range for positions at the bottom of them. If it's in the United States, there's some states that actually require this. So I've been able to start, I wasn't able to do this in the beginning when I started this report, but I've started to scrape the low end and high end salary range on positions that do make it available and bring that data into my report as well. So we've got some fun stuff we can look at with that. Big takeaway here, though, even just amongst these few bullet points is, and across all the data I looked at, that ability to get the data, think SQL, work with it, transform it, SQL to some extent, Python, right? Analyze it, data visualization tools, Excel, even to some extent Python, and then tell a story with it. Andy mentioned earlier Cole and her data storytelling with data programs that she has and books that she has, the ability to get the data, analyze it, tell a story with it. To me, having read through hundreds and hundreds of these position descriptions, and have been a practitioner for over 10 years in the field, that is really what I feel companies are looking for from data analytics positions. Let me know, I guess, in the comments what you think about that statement. I'd love to hear your perspective too. Let's take a really, really quick look, because we're 6 minutes past our ideal time here for the summit, staying on schedule. These are the top 10 skills that I saw in terms of the frequency of how often they were mentioned in position postings. You see SQL popping way up over the last 4.5 years. We're looking at first half of 2020 through current time frame. We got Tableau number 2, Excel number 3, Power BI number 4, and I put a comment of just strong demand continues for those data visualization tools in Excel. Definitely have lifted up kind of post COVID. Here's Python, number 5, stats. A lot of references to different statistical terms and position descriptions, predictive modeling, forecasting, all kinds of stuff that requires a baseline knowledge of statistics appearing in job postings pretty frequently. Industry experience, mentioned it was number 7 overall, but was by far the most mentioned preferred skill. And I'll show you these word clouds in just a second of both required and preferred skills. Are still hanging around, still mentioned oftentimes as, Python or R, Python and or R as a required skill or preferred. So sometimes I see those tied together and align in the position description. Data storytelling, again, being able to take those insights and tell a story with it. I see a lot of comments, even if they don't call out data storytelling in position descriptions, a lot of comments that are similar to something like the ability to take insights and use them to convince, an executive team of something, or to, influence stakeholders or things like that. Even if they don't call out data storytelling directly, a lot of verbiage that kind of gets at that concept. So definitely something I recommend. You kind of polish your skills around as an analyst, and there's some great resources out there. Cole, actually, who wrote Storytelling with Data, was a previous keynote at the Data Career Summit, and her keynote is actually on our YouTube channel if you want to take a look at that. And then other data visualization tools are kind of wrapped into that last one. There are many others out there. I'll bring up the word cloud. I already shared this one out on LinkedIn yesterday. Here you see that 80-20 rule kind of in action. You see the 145 different skills that were listed across those 100 positions I surveyed this last time. But you see some big ones pop in there, and we just talked about several of those. And then in terms of, there's always that required section, that oftentimes a preferred section in a job posting. This is just taking a look at what the words are that are in the preferred section of those job postings. And you can see industry experience pops to the top there. And so, if it's a healthcare analyst job, maybe it's healthcare experience. If it's a logistics industry job, maybe it's, they want experience from someone that's been in the logistics industry, et cetera. Oftentimes does pop as a preferred skill. And then if I were to combine all of the data visualization tools together, Tableau, Power BI, and then other viz tools, and put them all into one, and then re-rank the top 5. This is what it looks like if I combine all the data viz tools together. So actually 67% of the positions I looked at this last time required some type of data visualization experience or some type of experience with a data visualization tool. So that was actually number 1 when I re-rack these that way. And then it goes SQL, Excel, Python, and stats. Another cool thing I can do, and I'll share some snapshots of this out on social as well, is I've started over the last 3 reports to be able to pull together those low and high salary ranges for positions that do indeed make it available. And then what I can do is I can actually put it out onto a fun scatter plot like this, and I can take a look at where positions land low salary and high salary range, and then kind of segment them, as more entry level versus more senior level. I've done that with the gold and the gray dots here. And then we can start to take a look at what's the average low and high salary range based on the seniority level for analyst positions. I mentioned this has remained really strong to me in terms of US dollars and pretty consistent. That low end range came in this last time at 83K, high end range at 121K. I have insights on all the other seniority levels as well in that more comprehensive report I mentioned, but I did want to touch on this just to show what it looks like totally objectively for the data analyst roles that I take a look at, or those with similar titles to data analyst. And then I did want to touch on, just in closing here, there's a lot of questions around, do you need a degree? Don't you need a degree? Over time, you can see back here in first half of 2020, there was very few positions that did not require a degree. Most of them did. It has changed a little bit and kind of plateaued in the last year and a half or so. So we've got about a third of positions now not requiring it. But I will say that one thing I've noticed is there's more verbiage around the degree section of position descriptions. So it may say bachelor's degree required, and then something to the effect of, but for the right candidate, we may consider that in lieu of experience and things like this. So that's something I want to analyze more, but I am seeing just more statements and words around the degree section of position descriptions, which I think is going to be a very, very critical and interesting thing to watch in the next couple of years here. I do agree with Andy's statement that if you do great work, probably doesn't matter where you went to school, but that's just my perspective. All right. I finished that about as quickly as I could, Brandy. I'm gonna catch my breath for a second, bring you back up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's great.
Okay.
People absolutely love the insights that you're able to glean and pull together. So I guess a few things to note there. Dustin, as Dustin mentioned, he's going to be sharing out the slides from today's presentation on LinkedIn. So make sure you go out to LinkedIn and follow him. And then I believe he put together a whole full report, and we're going to be sending that out to all the folks who have a paid registration for today's event. So you'll definitely get insights, even if you opted for the free version. But if you did pay for the event today, you're going to get the full report with even more insights. So thank you for that, Dustin.